All right, all. Well, I want to say that I miss you all dearly. I look forward to a time in the future, hopefully near future, where we'll all be able to meet again, both junior high and high school, all together. But for now, know that I miss you all. And now let's turn our attention to what we're going to be looking at tonight. So, the focus of tonight is going to be an approach to studying the Bible. And we're going to start with this question: how observant are you? That can be the title for today. So before we even begin, we're going to be looking at this passage several times over. So how about you as a family take time now to read over this passage together. I would pause the video now, read over it, and then you'll be able to continue. The first phase of Bible study, and that being observation, the second being interpretation, and the third being application. I do think I'm going to go into these other two phases of Bible study because this is a good way of breaking down how to approach the Bible. So again, we're going to look at observation now. So who are the characters? So let's go ahead and look at our passage together. The way that I broke it down, which again, it can be different than the way you broke it down, but I broke it down as three main characters: the Lord, more specifically the covenantal God, the man who's praying, and the lost. And where do we see these? We see here, O Lord, and the Lord being all caps like that is pointing to Yahweh. So I that's why I put covenantal God. And then all of these references to you and to your ear. These are all, and again, I only did it throughout the first two verses there, but it goes throughout. The second character being the man. He's the one who's saying, I cry out, let my prayer, my cry, my soul. And then there's sort of this third character, which is the lost, and this one's a little bit less obvious or clear, but it seems like he's comparing himself to them frequently, so I figured I would put them in here. And we see in these areas here that among those who go down to the pit, and like a lost person who is among the dead, like the slain, like those whom you remember no more. So he's kind of likening, more so, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I had to reshoot this video because I'm prone to move from skip over observation and go right to interpretation. We want to do our best to not do that, so I will do my best to not do that in this little demo that we have here. When we make observations in general of the characters, we can look at these look for these sorts of things that are emphasized. And in this, I'm going to look primarily at how much of a given text, book, whatever it could be, is donated or given to this specific thought. So this is what is emphasized or central. Then we can look at what is repeated, literal words or ideas that are repeated. We can look at how what is related, like what passages, what verses are related to each other, and then again the kind of compare and contrast, see when that device is being used, when someone is trying to compare themselves to something or someone is trying to say that they're not like something. So let's look at this first question: what is emphasized? Now again, this is a little bit of interpretation, so I did jump ahead here, but if you look at this slide here, we see how there's space given to this man being persistent in prayer, right? We've seen these first things that he's saying day and night, that he is crying out to the Lord. So we see the first two verses kind of having this persistence in prayer, him praying to a God of salvation that he knows. So there's this faith involved in this prayer. But if we look at the whole text, and this is again only the first 7 verses of Psalm 88. I don't think I said that earlier. Of Psalm 88. These are just the first 7 verses. And in these first 7 verses, there's sort of this repetition of death or of darkness. So again, I think like that is something that is being emphasized in this passage. And again, we can, what are your guys' thoughts when you look at this? What do you see? How would you characterize what is being emphasized in this? What is repeated? Now, again, sort of breaking down this passage, we see in verse 3 how this is sort of the beginning of a list for this psalmist. He starts here in verse 3, and then from all the way down to the bottom in 7, there's sort of a list and repetition of his troubles. He's describing them. So one of the things that is repeated is repeated references to himself. So he says, my soul, my life, I am, me. There's lots of repetition of references to himself. And then there's also a lot of repetition with regards to references to pits and holes. So dark places of death, so there are lots of references to places like that. Again, there's so much more. There's lots of repetition in this passage. And in any passage, you may see some initially, but then you'll see more and more and more repetition. So try to go over a passage again and again to try to get as much as you can in this phase of observation, because again, that makes interpretation easier. This next question is what is related. Now again, I only briefly touched on this, but these sort of brackets that we see on the left, I see that those are sort of whole thoughts that the author has. You can just see it with regards to the grammatical structure of it, right? There's a period at the end of verse 3, there's a period at the end of verse 4. They're even broken up in 4 and 5 seem to be one large thought with a period at the end, and the same with 6 and 7. But then this is something that you can do again even more, and if we were to have the whole passage, we would see much more things that are related to each other. But if you look at the beginning of verse 4 and the beginning of verse 6, we see that it ends in pit, this word pit. And obviously we read, I am counted among those who go down to the pit. And then he's saying, you have put me in the depths of the pit. So he finds himself in the same place. One is him looking around and considering where he is, and then the second statement is saying that you have in fact put me here. So there's a relation between these two verses that are separated by many words. Way more things again that are related in this even 7 verses, but the whole psalm. And this question I really enjoy: what is compared and what is contrasted? Now again, this is something that I went very basic on because I kind of want you all to be able to look at this passage and to be able to find what things are compared and contrasted. So I want you to sort of come up with your own list, and this is sort of a jumping off point for you. So I see the author is constantly drawing a connection between his life and death. And we see that, firstly in verse 3 when it says, my life draws near to Sheol. Sheol is again sort of like a Hebrew understanding of hell. So he's relating, or of death, or of a holding place. There's different understandings of that, but we'll get into that with interpretation next time. But my life draws near to Sheol. Again, he's saying that his life draws near to death. Lots and lots of pictures of this throughout this text. Now, all of this again has something we've just been looking at with regards to observation, but I don't just want to leave you observing this dark passage without giving maybe some point of application. Again, I said that I see the sort of major theme is darkness with this psalm. The psalm's actually unique in that it's one of two psalms that does not resolve with a declaration of trust. Many psalms are like, my soul, goes down to the pit, but I will trust in you, or something like this. There's always this sort of resolution where the author proclaims in faith or, in truth, looking to the fact that I trust in you, God. This passage, actually, the last word is darkness. So this is a theme that runs through the whole psalm. I encourage you, to look through it. But I think, many of us can find ourselves at any given point, and if we're not now in a time of darkness, we will be. And for this, brother of ours, he has been experiencing darkness for a long period of time, and that this could in fact be where you are now, or it will be something that you will engage with throughout your life. There's times in the Christian walk, in the life, where we experience prolonged seasons of darkness, of struggle. I know that I found myself in these throughout my life, and we can go to the Bible and see that it's a real story. It's not trying to gloss over the fact that hard things happen, right? It's a true book. It's a book that deals with the reality of things. And the chief example of someone whose life was darkness, we can look to Jesus. It says he was despised and rejected, that he went to his own received him. In fact, when he died on that cross, it said darkness covered the face of the earth. So we can know that our God doesn't just look at our darkness, the times of hardship that we may be in from a distance, but we can know that he entered into that darkness. He was willing to taste of it himself, and gives us life beyond that through his darkness. So he took on the greatest darkness there is, so that we might be able to have the light of his face. So I want to leave you with that, but I hope this was beneficial for you. Please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Let's actually have maybe a productive time of chatting in the comments. But anyways, love you guys. Again, hopefully hope to be able to see you all very soon. All right, bye-bye.